Delphi update. There have been some crazy developments in the Delphi murder case this week. Everything started on September 14th of this year when defense filed a motion to kick out the search warrant in this case. Now, this motion at 3 pages was nothing too special. The search warrant was too broad, the search warrant wasn't specific enough. See this all the time. But there was one interesting part in this September 14th motion. Basically, that the investigators failed to advise the issuing judge of material facts and made false and misleading representations with a reckless disregard for the truth. Now, this little tidbit is interesting because normally a warrant is reviewed and assessed based on the 4 corners of the document. Nothing outside the warrant is to be considered. A signed warrant is hard to get around. But one way to get around a warrant is for the defense to show that a warrant should not have ever actually been issued. And one way to do that is to show the information in the warrant was false or the relevant facts were purposely missing from the warrant, and that a judge likely would never have signed the warrant if, number 1, the missing facts were included, or, number 2, the warrant didn't contain false facts. And that is exactly what this paragraph is saying the police did in the Delphi case. The investigators failed to advise the issuing judge of material facts and made false and misleading representations with a reckless disregard for the truth. Now, when I read this, I thought to myself, ooh, the Delphi defense team is coming in hot. Then, 4 days later, I see the defense team is not only coming in hot, they are in full nuclear meltdown mode. On September 18th, the defense team filed a motion for a Franks hearing and a memorandum in support of that Franks hearing. Now, Franks hearing is how a defense attorney attacks a search warrant with the claim that the missing or misleading facts led to the signing of the search warrant. And if the missing facts were included and the false statements were removed, the judge would never have signed the warrant. Now, this is certainly advanced criminal defense, but this is normal stuff for good attorneys. But now where it gets abnormal is with the accompanying memorandum in support of the motion. Now, I want to take a quick step back. The Delphi case is already super weird and suspect with all the secrecy involved in this case with sealed documents and filings, but the memorandum at the time of filming this video has been removed from the online filings. I mean, I got sent a copy from someone that managed to snag it for the 30 or so minutes it was up, but as of right now, it is not online and there's no evidence that a memorandum in support was ever actually filed. So incredibly weird and not normal. But whatever. Now, this memorandum in support of the Franks hearing is insane. Not that it was written by a crazy person, but the facts it alleges are incredible. The memorandum in support is 136 pages long. It might be one of the longest Indiana filings I've ever seen in my nearly 20 years of being an attorney. The introduction to this memo alone is 26 pages. Now, I read all 136 pages last night after putting the baby to bed. And this thing reads like it could be the next season of HBO's True Detective. It is, for the lack of a better word, insane. Now, I'm still working through all 136 pages, and to make matters a little bit more confusing, the memorandum consistently refers to 126 separate exhibits throughout its 136 pages. And I do not have access to those exhibits because they were filed confidentially. Now, these exhibits range from confidential crime scene photos, pictures of paintings, Facebook posts, basically anything you can imagine is an exhibit in this case for this memorandum. So, I'm trying to make sense of this 136-page memorandum in support of the Franks hearing without the full information. So that's kind of like my way of saying, forgive me if I make mistakes. That being said, I'm going to try to give a quick overview of what was in this 136-page memo. So the intro is 26 pages long. It is at times a glossary of the terms used throughout the memo, such as unified command, and at other time quite clearly states, members of a pagan Norse religion called Odinism, hijacked by white nationalists, ritualistically sacrificed the victims. The 26 pages also serve as an overview of sorts the remaining 110 pages. And I'll be honest with you, when I got this 136-page memo at 9 p.m. last night, I thought to myself, no way am I going to make it through this without falling asleep. But the 26-page introduction got me hooked, and I think that was a clever move by the defense attorney to keep the judge, media, anyone else interested in this. They give a little bit of flavor at the beginning, and it kept you coming back for more. At least it did for me. The remaining 110 pages of the memo is broken into 5 separate parts. The first part is a description of the crime scene, and it is disturbing, complete with the horrible things that happened to the 2 victims. The stuff I never heard before was that the ruins were placed on or near the bodies that purportedly tie into this pagan religion of Odinism. The point of this section is to show that it would be impossible for Richard Allen to have committed these murders by himself. The defense does an excellent job expressing this, as there are simply too many moving parts for a single person to have committed these murders. Specifically, they've identified 92 separate tasks that were done in committing these murders that would have been impossible for Richard Allen to do by himself, given the relatively short amount of time he was at the crime scene. Part 2. Deep dives into evidence connecting the pagan cult of Odinism to the murders. This sounds like a crazy allegation, but the evidence given by the defense seems to support it, particularly the ruins found near the crime scene, the fact that the state police are alleged to have consulted an expert at Purdue about Odinism, and the fact that one of the original investigators wrote up a 12-page Odinism memo, and all of this was ultimately brushed to the side. This is some creepy stuff. The reason why this section is so convincing is that it appears to have been believed by some of the original investigators to the murders. This section also goes into significant detail, pointing the finger at other possible suspects in the case, many of whom have been cleared by the state, prematurely cleared as described by the defense. Now, I'm not going to name names, as this is the kind of stuff that can ruin people's lives, but the defense does raise some interesting questions about other people they determine as suspects. In my opinion, this section does an excellent job and provides a roadmap for how the defense will try to blame other individuals if and when this case goes to jury trial. Some of the more striking things in this section: one suspect, as identified by the defense, is alleged to have asked police, "If my spit is found on the girls, but I can explain it away, would I still be in trouble?" That is the creepiest statement I've read, at least this year. Here's another, and as a movie buff, I find it both interesting and terrifying that one of the individuals identified by the defense as a possible suspect in this case posted the following meme 3 days after the bodies were found. It's a Goodfellas meme, in case you need the reference. The defense alleges these people, among others, were cleared entirely too soon by investigators and should have been investigated further. Part 3 is really the heart of the Franks hearing issue. This section goes into detail about the false, misleading, and omitted facts that led to the search warrant being signed. The defense says the warrant would never have been signed by a judge if the search warrant submitted to the judge did not conceal information and did not supply false information. This section relies heavily on sealed exhibits, but the gist of it is the witness who allegedly saw Richard Allen on the bridge described him as slender and youthful, boyish looking, in his 20s or early 30s, having poofy hair, and having no facial hair. This is not an accurate description of Richard Allen. This information was not put into the search warrant affidavit submitted to the judge. Additionally, this same witness no longer sees Richard Allen's car parked at the CPS lot at 2:15 p.m. This creates timeline issues for the state. This information was left out of the search warrant affidavit as well. Another witness was reported by law enforcement to have seen a man wearing a blue jacket with muddy and bloody clothing walking on 300 North. It turns out that is not correct, because that same witness in 2017 told investigators the man was wearing a tan or light colored jacket, not a blue jacket, and nowhere in this 2017 statement does the witness actually say bloody, just muddy. These allegations in Part 3 do seem to be extremely problematic for the state. Conflicting identification, bad timeline, wrong colored jacket, and the absence of the bloody description. That is some seriously messy investigative work. But will it be enough to get the warrant set aside? Well, only time will tell. Part 4 jumps back into the Odinism angle of this case and shows how the guards who are watching over Richard Allen are connected to Odinism, which the defense says is significant in how Richard Allen has been treated inside the jail, and which might be responsible for why Richard Allen made some confessions over the phone to the murders. What is really messed up is that some of the prison guards have been seen by defense attorneys and their investigators wearing white supremacy patches on their prison guard uniforms. Who does that? This is 2023. The defense also alleges that the same two correction officers are always around Richard Allen when he was meeting with his defense team. And these two guards are Odinists, as they wear patches relating to Odinism on their work uniform, and they like each other's Odinist Facebook posts. It is definitely creepy. And given the nature of the ruins found around the bodies and other connections to the pagan religion, Odinism, it seems super weird that prison guards are also pagan worshippers too. That's a lot of coincidence right there. Here is one of the best quotes from the brief. They don't teach you in law school what to do when your client, who is accused of murder, is being guarded by members of a religious cult whose members, evidence strongly supports, were the actual murderers. Yet, here we are. I love that quote. Part 5 is a shorter section and basically tries to explain that Richard Allen is not connected to these murders and is being framed. This is a nice little wrap-up. It's nice and short, too. And I also find it to be the weakest. In all the claims that Richard Allen is not connected to the murders, there is no mention of the bullet found at the scene that matches Richard Allen's gun. Now, I think that bullet evidence is weak and forensically unreliable, but to not mention it in this section seems like an oversight. This case seems to be getting wilder and wilder, and I'm excited to see where it goes. If you've watched this far, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. If you have a comment, leave it. I will do my best to respond to all comments, good or bad. I'm Marc Lopez, and remember, always plead the fifth.